Greg Williams, congratulations on being inducted into the California Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
It's well deserved. What got you involved in wrestling?
What got me involved with wrestling, my dad, he was a high school coach in football. And one of his peers, another one of the football coaches, was the head coach of the wrestling team. And my dad was a heavier weight, and he says, hey, come in and work out with my guys. And my dad fell in love with the sport, became an official. And so when I was 5, he said, let's go. This is a sport I want you to get involved with. And I just started when I was 5 and never looked back. So.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that back when you started too, there weren't that many people that started when they were that young.
No.
So that was probably a big advantage for you.
Yeah.
What individual had the greatest impact on your wrestling career?
There's one person that I can easily single out that had an influence that carried through my whole career, and he's in the Hall of Fame. It's Corky Napier. He was my high school coach from my sophomore through my senior year, and not only was he the first person who actually taught a systematic approach to wrestling, but he also taught things beyond wrestling. He was a great mentor and example of the kind of person I'd want to be as I continued to grow and go along my journey. So a great influence.
Yeah, he's a great guy. I coached at Clovis West,
so
we had duels with Madera High School, and so I got to know Corky quite well. I agree with you on that. Did you have any wrestling idols growing up?
I did. The very first was when I first started wrestling in high school, which is the first time I really was serious about my goals, and I knew I wanted to be a state champ. And you know, everybody had heard of Dan Gable at that time because this was, you know, kind of the mid to later 70s. And I read his book and just fell in love with everything that he was about with wrestling. I wondered, I know when I read the book, I thought, man, it's a lot of focus all right here. But at that time, that was kind of the way I was, which was, it was all wrestling. That was what I wanted to do all day long. And then secondly, when I was a sophomore, I went to the state tournament and watched Dave Schultz. I kept hearing about him. He was a senior that year. I had a teammate that went and placed 4th in that same weight that year. And I had heard about the Tbilisi tournament, heard he was the runner-up there, knew what that tournament was about in Russia, and just thought, and he wrestled 49 and a half, and he's wrestled 165 at state. The kid in the finals that he wrestled, they blew the whistle, he lifted his leg up to the guy, and said, like, go ahead, take it. And that kid was from Holtville. He had wrestled my teammate at the finals of the Holtville tournament and had destroyed my teammate, and he was a good wrestler. So I knew he was good, and Dave just, I felt bad for the guy. He just was just so many steps ahead of everybody else, you know, when he was finishing his high school career, and continued to do that throughout his career. And such an ambassador for the sport, just like, you know, Dan Gable, so.
2 great role models, that's for sure. Throughout your career, it could be either competing or you've coached for a long time as well at the college level, so and high school, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is there a single most memorable match or event that you can think of?
You know, as I've thought back on my career, it would be hard to pick one, but there were 2 when I was competing because they were such big goals for me. One was winning a state championship in California because it's such a tough state to win. And then being an All-American. I wanted to be a national champ when I went to college and didn't quite reach that goal, but being an All-American is a special, you know, experience, and not very many people get an opportunity when you look at all the wrestlers that, you know, go on even to D1. And then I had to look at it as a coach as well. And I had 2 experiences as a coach at Utah Valley University. One was our first All-American, which was our 2nd year going postseason for our school. And he was special because he was from my club as well. So he'd wrestled for me for quite a while. And he has a movie that just came out called Stand Out. He had a lot of adversity growing up. He had Cruzon's disease, so it was super special. He wrestled Robles in the semifinals. It was the only close match Robles had all year. It was a 4-2 match. And then the year that we had 2 semifinalists. You know, for a school that didn't have, we still don't have much of a wrestling room, and you know, we had a lot of things that we had to try to work through. But to have 2 semifinalists, 2021, was a nice accomplishment for us as well.
Yeah, program's come a long way, and
It
it
is.
looks
And
like
they've hired a great coach.
yeah,
to
it looks
continue
like
that.
they did a good job.
Yes.
Keeping it rolling, which is, I'm sure, with as much time and effort that you put into it, you'd hate to see it not do that.
Absolutely. Yes.
In wrestling, you have a lot of challenges, difficult situations that you're confronted with, and you have to show a lot of resolve to, you know, get through them. Can you think of one of those events and share them with us?
Well, deciding to coach that program, you know, we had 4 scholarships. We had no assistant coaches.
Now, is this after, was Cody the coach there?
Cody was there the first
Yeah.
3 years, and then I was there the next 3 before we could go postseason. Difference for me that was a plus that Cody didn't have was the people that I was recruiting now would get 2 years, you know, postseason, but it's still hard to recruit them. Like the kid, Ben Kerr, who was my first All-American, he had lots of schools after him, and he gave up 2 years of going to nationals, sacrificed that to come. So it was a little difficult task recruiting. I had to raise money. I raised money before my interview so that I knew if I got the job, I would have 1 assistant. And the school was great about, you know, picking that up for us after a couple of years, and then I had that money I could put towards the next assistant, and the school picked that up. So it was just, you know, but you know, it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back when you're trying to build a program from scratch. And granted, you know, Cody, I feel so pleased for him that he got the experience that he got at Penn State and what he's doing. I'll never forget, he came up to me the year I was retiring, a year and a half ago, and just said, you know, congratulations, and I feel, you know, you went through so much. And I said, Cody, I'd never complain to you because he had way less than I had, and went through that and was all in with that program until Kel got that job at Iowa State, and Cody went with him. So
yeah, that's amazing. What part of your personality do you think contributed most to your success? I mean, both as an athlete and as a coach.
And yeah, the thing that contributed, I think, the most to me being able to handle the journey of being a wrestler, being a coach, and even as a person. My dad gave me a tool. He was a psychologist and really had done a lot of sports, and so he started doing a lot of sports psychology stuff. And he told me, he gave me a notebook, and he said, after every match, make notes. So all through my high school career, I would write whether I won, lost, what happened during that match, maybe even notes about how I felt, and I could go back with my eating, sleeping, preparation before the match, after the match, and I continued that throughout my life. So it was really a good tool because going through and you know, wrestlers have to fail to be successful, and you know, a lot of failures along the way, but being able to evaluate and adjust and adapt after everything, whether you win or lose, is a great tool to have, and I'm thankful for that, and thankful I got that at a young enough age to apply it throughout life.
No, that's a great thing to have. Would you do anything differently if you were to start your career over again?
You know, that's a great question. What would I do over if I had the opportunity? And you know, part of making decisions, you try to make the best decision you can at the time. I can't go back and say any of those I would take back. Maybe I might have wanted a different result. Maybe I wanted, you know, especially as a coach, could I have done something different for this kid? You know, is there a way that I could have helped him get over this hump? You know, but no, I wouldn't change a thing. I've loved the journey. I've loved the challenges, and feel very blessed with the experience that I've had, the blessings I've had of the kids I've worked with, the mentors I've had. It's been amazing.
Yeah, you had a good run.
Yeah, thank you.
What would you like people to remember about Greg Williams?
I think a lot like what I mentioned about Corky, about what I would want to leave behind as far as my legacy, and it's very well known at Utah Valley, is that I was looking beyond the wrestler from the second that I started recruiting them till they graduated from our program and continued on these relationships, is that they're the best version of themselves. That overall they're just great quality people. They know how to set goals. They know how to work through things and basically not getting knocked off their path on their journey. Get those skills and that they know that I love them.
And I'm sure they did. Well, Greg, congratulations on being inducted into the California Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Thank you. I really do appreciate it.
Okay, you're welcome.